Hare Krishna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Richa Mataji, are you on?
Yeah.
I think it's just you and I. Should we, at least at this point, I thought that Archana was on, but I don't see her as a participant anymore. And it looks like Lila Manjari, she chatted and said that she's unable to talk today. So I think it's just the two of us. Do you know what verse we're on?
Yeah, hold on, let me see.
4, chapter, is it chapter 4 also? Canto 4, chapter 4?
Yes.
Okay, do you know what verse we're on? Was 11 or 12 or something?
Yeah, hold on.
Let's see. We got a chat here. 4, 3. Okay, so go back.
We were on
4, 3, 17.
16 or 16 yeah.
Lila Manjari wrote 17 to 20.
Okay, yeah, we must have read the 17.
Hare Krishna, this is Govardhan Leela. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. We're just getting situated here. It looks like Leela Manjari is not able to talk, so I think it's just the three of us at this point. So we can start with prayer right now. We can do that together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshu Militanyena Jai Shri Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Karo Yam Dadanti Svavadantikam Vancha Kapa Patrubhyacha Kripa Sindhuva Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Narayana
Yam Namaskritya,
Naram Shaiva Narottam
Bhagavatamam
Devim Sarastatim Vyasam
Santato
Jiraya
Durayat Nasta Praisavadresu Nityam Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nishtaki. Okay, so there's 3 verses and there's, it looks like, let me check. Well, oh, there's 4 of us maybe. There's myself. Is that Archana? Are you on? Oh, that person does not have their. Yes,
No,
you are.
that's 773. I think that's Linda Mataji.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Linda. So Linda, do you have a book?
I do, you know what? I'm looking for it right now and I can't seem to locate it.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get someone started who has a book while you're looking. Just so you'll know, we're going to be reading Canto 4, Chapter 3, verse 17. Let's see, Richie Mataji, do you have a book available?
Yes, I can read 17.
Okay, is it available now?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and begin reading?
Just give me one second. Vidya Tapo Vitta Vapur Vaya Kulai Satam Gunai Sadbhir Ashtamarai Smartau Hatam Vita Manar Duridrisha Stabdha Na Pashyanti Tidhama Bhushayam. Translation. Although the 6 qualities, education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage, are for the highly elevated, one who is proud of possessing them becomes blind and thus he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. Purport. It may be argued that since Daksh was very learned, wealthy, and austere, and had descended from a very exalted heritage, how could he be unnecessarily angry towards another? The answer is that when the qualities of good education, good parentage, and sufficient wealth are misplaced in a person who is backed by all these positions, they produce a very bad result. Milk is a very nice food, but when milk is touched by an evil serpent, it becomes poisonous. Similarly, material assets such as education, wealth, beauty, and good parentage are undoubtedly nice. But when they decorate persons of a malicious nature, then they act adversely. Another example given by Chanakya Pandit is that a serpent that has a jewel on its head is still fearful because it is a serpent. The serpent by nature is envious of other living entities even though they may be faultless.
Hello, Benji.
Hold on a second.
How are you?
Wait a minute.
अरे भाई पैसा देना है ना मेरे को
मैं क्लास की बात करती हूँ मैं क्लास की बात करती हूँ Okay, when a serpent bites another creature, it is not necessarily because the other creature is at fault. It is the habit of the serpent to bite innocent creatures. Similarly, although Daksh was qualified by many material assets because he was proud of his possessions and because he was envious, all those good qualities were polluted. It is sometimes therefore detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness to possess such material assets. Kunti Devi, while offering prayers to Krishna, addressed him as Akinchan Gochar, one who is specially approached by those who are bereft of all material acquisitions. Um, Material exhaustion is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness, although if one is conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can utilize one's material assets such as the great learning and beauty and exalted ancestry for the service of the Lord. Then such assets become glorious. In other words, unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. But when the zero is by the side of the Supreme One, it is at once increases in value to 10. Unless situated by the side of the Supreme One, zero is always zero. One may add 100 zeros, but the value will still remain zero. Unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they may play havoc and degrade the possessor. Do you want me to read text 18 too, or somebody else wants to read?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's see if Linda, are you situated to read the next one yet?
No,
You're not situated? Governor Leela, did you want to read?
That's fine. Okay, so I'm doing text 18. Naitad Rishanan Svajana Vayapekshaya Grihan Pritayad Anavashti Tatmanam Yayabig Yagatan Vakrad Diyabichakshate Aprot Aropita Prubir Amarshana Shibi. A translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should not go to anyone's house, even on the consideration of his being a relative or a friend, when the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. Purport: however low a person may be, he is never unkind to his children, wife, and nearest kin. Even a tiger is kind to its cubs, for within the animal kingdom, the cubs are treated very nicely. Since Sati was the daughter of Daksha, however cruel and contaminated he might be, naturally it was expected that he would receive her very nicely. But here it is indicated by the word anavastita that such a person cannot be trusted. Tigers are very kind to their cubs, but it is also known that sometimes they eat them. Malicious persons should not be trusted because they are always unsteady. Thus, Sati was advised not to go to her father's house because to accept such a father as a relative and to go to his house without being properly invited was not suitable. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let's see. Linda Mataji, are you situated yet?
yeah.
Okay.
We're
We're on 19 now.
on chapter 3, 19.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this Sanskrit is beyond me. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative. For such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. Purport. Sati might have concluded that she would take the risk of going to her father's house, even if her father spoke unkindly against her. She would be tolerant, as a son sometimes tolerates the reproaches of his parents. But Lord Shiva reminded her that she would not be able to tolerate such kind words because natural psychology dictates that although one can suffer harm from an enemy and not mind so much because pain is inflicted by an enemy don't commit suicide.
Wow. That was pretty heavy there.
Yeah.
I think that's the last one, or do we have one more? Let me check the chat again. Chat to 20. Is there someone else that wants to read that hasn't read? Okay, I'll read. Yakamfan ukristakate prajapate priyatmajanam asisubra memata tatapi manam napitu prapatsyase marasrat kat anka paritapyat yataha. Translation. My dear white-complexioned wife, it is clear that of the many daughters of Daksha, you are the pet. Yet you will not be honored at his house, because of your being my wife. Rather, you will be sorry that you are connected with me. Purport. Lord Shiva put forward the argument that even if Sati proposed to go alone, without her husband, still she would not be received well because she was his wife. There was every chance of a catastrophe, even if she wanted to go alone. Therefore, Lord Shiva indirectly requested her not to go to her father's house. Hare Krishna. So, do we want to start discussing 16?
I think did we start with 16 or 17? 17, I believe, through 20.
17. Okay, it was 17. Okay, starting with 17.
I guess then,
Okay.
Ruchima, did you want to discuss text 17?
I'm wondering, I know that she had some talking going on when she was reading, and so I'm wondering if she's caught up in a conversation with
Are you
whoever.
talking to me?
Oh,
Is some
oh, you're available. Okay, good. Do you want to discuss your texts that you read, 17?
okay. Uh, yeah, just let me know if I go out of the context because I have this thing. I go a little bit
Okay, we'll keep
outside.
you, we'll keep you rounded in. Okay, sounds good.
So I will. So just let me know if I just go outside the context. Anyway, so here this is a very important verse because um, here it is said that all the qualities that a human being has, actually it is all a reflection of the divine qualities, and it is given to person to do God's work, not to like be proud of them, because they are all given this body, mind, consciousness, everything is given by God. There is nothing in ourselves that we can call ours, like how it is written in the Bible, from dust to dust. So like one is dust and we shall return to dust. And it is just dust that the Supreme Lord breathes his air into and gives us life, gives us consciousness, and gives us this whole entity that we call ourselves. Like how we can call this person X person as an X person because of his attributes, of his nature, of his whatever quantities are qualities are given by the divine mercy of the Lord. And they are really not something one can be proud of, that look, I am like good looking, or I have so much wealth, or I have so much heritage, I was born in such a good family, or I am so highly educated, even though it is our endeavors through which we gain this education. But that education is really just um, accumulation of knowledge. And like it is written in the Bhagavad Gita that memory and recollection comes from the Lord Himself. So many times, like I've seen with myself, and also like I have known other people, uh, as soon as something, they get a stroke or just anything, uh, they don't remember anything, and they only remember some things, uh, and they forget other things. So even if we like observe ourselves in our lives, there is hardly anything we will remember from the past 5 years or 10 years. It will be just a few moments, a few memories, which will be also up to God what He wants to remind us of those 5 years. In this 5 years, who knows, we don't remember so many things and we remember only some things. So the selective memory is also given by God. And then also through education, I was reading somewhere, this only comes from experience. Through education, which means wisdom, the inner wisdom to learn from those experiences we had, or from any kind of a scripture, also comes from God. Otherwise, we can just read it and it will not matter. It may happen like it happens to me sometimes, that I hear a lot of things and I forget immediately. So the inner wisdom of like hearing all these scriptures, or from any kind of an education, usually these days our education is mostly material, so there's not much to be gained apart from facts which one can Google these days. So it's really, apart from like giving us discipline of mind, it is not much accomplishment or either giving us a livelihood. Anyways, so good education, good parentage, beauty, and sufficient wealth, they are all misplaced in a person who is puffed up by all these consciousness. They produce a very bad result. And if somebody is very proud of it, like how we see sometimes many devotees also, or many people, they become very proud of their austerities, of their practice, that they've been following this religion or that religion staunchly for such a long time. It is good for a person's self-confidence, that I have done the right thing, but eventually it is really not of any use if it is not helping anybody else, or it is not getting us closer to the true God, then it's really of no use. So, so all these qualities, uh, they can actually work against us if we do not take them in the proper light, if we do not thank God for the qualities that we have been given, uh, if we do not realize that there is nothing that we can call our own, it is all the gift of God. How like even in Bible it's all written that those are all talents given by God, and how we use them is up to us. So milk is a very nice food. So so here um, material assets and all these, they are very nice. But when they decorate persons of a malicious nature, then they act adversely. So, like somebody who can be very educated, can lose grounding with the earth, grounding, and then they can think that um, they are very qualified to, or when it comes to life's problems, they are not streetwise and they are not able to make use of any of their education, like how it's happening these days. In the coronavirus, there are many um, highly educated people like lawyers and um, other senators or other um, people who work in the office, and all those people who were earning their livelihood by their technical education, they have been totally discounted to zero, like lawyers. Or I had heard that in America, only cab drivers in New York until Uber came. So only cab drivers in America and only the lawyers and doctors made the most money. So the lawyers are out, the cab drivers are out. Now it's just the doctors who are actually trying to do
Hare
something.
Krishna, Hare Krishna. Back to the verse.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll explain I just try to explain it in my own practical way. So maybe I'll finish it and then next time somebody else can do it, because I just don't know how to explain it in the technical sense. Like I just know how to explain it in the way I see my own experiences, and I know there are a lot of verses to cover, so I'll just shorten it. But yeah, next time maybe somebody else can give it more technically. So, anyways, here it's saying um, so here Daksh was qualified by many material assets because he was proud and because he was envious. All those qualities were polluted. So, therefore, detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness to possess such material assets. So, actually, they say that unless a person is very much established in spirituality, he should try to stay away from money, because it's said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It is very difficult for a devotee who is not very grounded in his practice to be having a lot of money, because or a lot of comfort or a lot of material entanglements, because the person isn't able to detach himself from them and focus on Krishna consciousness. So it actually becomes detrimental for the person. So yeah, God just answered something that I was asking him a few days ago. So yeah. So here Kunti Devi is um, while offering Krishna addressed his a Kinchan Gochar, one who is easily approached by those who are bereft of all material acquisition. So like in every religion, in every scripture, it is said that those who have nobody, they have God. So even in the Bible, it's written, "The poor and the weak shall, the poor and the meek, sorry, the poor and the meek shall inherit the kingdom of God," because they uh, they don't have this false ego in them developed so much, and um, they don't have the sorry, I'm forgetting. So yeah, they don't have this false ego in them, and they don't have a lot of confidence in their own abilities. So they are more humble and more. There is a word in the Bible, but I'm forgetting what it is. So yeah, so that is why it is easy for them uh, to be detached from the life they are having, because it's not very comfortable and it's miserable, and they are asking for relief. And so they get the relief from the love of God. But for a human being who is comfortable or who is very rich, it's not possible, because he's very attached to his material accomplishments, and also the fact that he achieved it. He did it by his own um, endeavors. So so the same thing, but if a person is very well grounded in Krishna consciousness, like we see the example of Amrish Maharaj, he was a king, but still he was in his mind detached, like how Parikshit Maharaj was there. He was also a king, but he was detached from all his material possessions because he was highly elevated. So when he knew he has to die, he just didn't pray that he should be saved, just gave up everything, went on the banks of the river and asked for the means to his liberation. So one who is grounded, one who is spiritually advanced can handle all these. They actually uh, they actually become as a stepping stone for those people, because then uh, they are actually helping him. So, so the same thing is said that unless situated by the side of the Supreme, 1 0 is always 0. One may add 100 zeros, but the value will still remain 0. Unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they merely have it and degrade the possessor. So that was my 2 cents, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ruchi. It was very nicely said. Let's see, I believe Govardhan Leela, you were next.
Yes. And we have to remember that, and I think you did mention this, sometimes it was a little hard to hear you, Ruchi Mataji, but as we know, if we can take that same money, look at the Ford's grandson. Ford's grandson gave a lot of money to Srila Prabhupada to build, I don't know, temples in India. And you know, when they're used in Krishna consciousness, that changes it completely. It's no longer material. And just to think, another example was George Harrison and giving the Bhaktivedanta manor to the devotees. You know, he was very, very generous. And they, you know, these are people who had money, but they were really surrendered. So you're right. You know, when there are certain kings who are, you know, they're surrendered also, and they, you know, they're not so fixed on their wealth. So anyway, so it can go either way if it's used in the right way. All right, and in text 18, I believe in this section, it was Daksha, Sati's husband, who was advising Sati not to go to this event, okay, not to go see to her father's house, okay, because, and it says in the translation, even though that was Sati's father, he was the father or Daksha was disturbed in his mind, okay, and he looked upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. So we should be careful. This is an interesting passage. It doesn't matter how low a person is in terms of their social status, or you know, they could be the lowest of the low, but when it comes to their children, they're never parents are usually never unkind to their children, to their wife or nearest kin. Now we know that that's not always true in life, but for the most part we can say this. Now also, even tigers, and we know they are A1 predators, they are very kind to their cubs, and they're treated very nicely. So even though Daksha, who, excuse me, could be cruel and contaminated, which he was, it was to be expected that he would receive his daughter in a nice way. But Daksha was advising his wife that, you know, you cannot trust this type of person when they are in anger or their mind is not right. or, you know,
Do you mean Shiva? You said Daksha was speaking to his wife, advising his wife.
yes, he was advising his wife.
Daksha?
Yes.
Daksha was?
Well, yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, what am I saying? I'm so sorry. Shiva. So sorry. I don't know what planet I was on when I said that. But yes, Shiva was advising his wife, don't trust somebody who's malicious, because you never know, even if they're family members, and if they are not a steady person, they can turn on you. Okay. And, you know, just like tigers or lions do it all the time, they can be very kind to their cubs, but sometimes they eat them. Okay. This can happen. And so Shiva was trying to advise his wife not to go to her father's house, because she wasn't properly invited, and so you could not really tell what the outcome of that situation was going to be, because he had a lot of he didn't like Lord Shiva. He was, you know, not happy with Lord Shiva, and she hadn't been to her father's house in a long time, so that could stir up a lot of feelings for him, whether or not he loved his daughter. So that was what was happening in text 18.
Thank you. Was it Linda that did the next one?
Yes, she did.
Linda, are you available? Hare Krishna, Linda. Did you want to speak on the verse that you read? Govardhan Leela, did you want to speak on that?
I'll just, yes, I didn't hear the whole thing, but I will look at it now and try to explain it. And it was definitely Lord Shiva who was speaking to his wife, and he continued to speak to her. And so it's one thing to be slighted or insulted, if you will, by or hurt by someone you don't really know as well, okay? Or someone who's kind of your enemy at times. You can get through that. And he was trying to explain to her, you know, you can get past that and not be aggrieved by it all the time. However, when a relative does such a thing, it's so hurtful that it cuts, you know, at that cuts that person, and that kind of grief continues day and night in the heart of that person who was hurt. I know this can happen even in my own family. It has happened to me many times. But so Sati could have concluded that she could go to her father's house, she could take a risk, and even if her father was unkind to her, she would be tolerant. And sometimes, as a son, sometimes tolerates the reproaches of his parents. And I've done this many times myself. You know, I can say that, you know, sometimes I go to see a family member and I know that they're not a favorable person all the time. And sometimes they're going to say things that I don't really feel good, you know, that they say to me. But I can usually tolerate it if it's from somebody who's not as close to me. But now Shiva was reminding Sati that, you know, she's not going to be able to tolerate such insults if they coming from her father, Daksha, because you can, yeah, as I was saying, they say this in natural psychology. It's known, you know, if you're a friend of yours who's not your very best friend, just somebody you know, says some nasty words, you might say to yourself, oh my gosh, what was wrong with them when they were saying that? That's ridiculous. However, and I'm not going to listen to that. That has no bearing on my life. However, if a relative or someone very close to us says some very, very strong words that are very hurtful, some people, it can affect a person night and day for quite some time. There are some people that find these situations so intolerable that they leave the body, they kill themselves. Now, and this is when, of course, people need to be seeking help for such grief. But it is true, because a family knows how to hurt us much more than someone else out on the street. They know our weak points. They know what will make us very sad. And sometimes they use those points. It's almost like pushing buttons to get a rise out of us, or to make us suffer in some way, or punish us. And so this was what Lord Shiva was trying to get across to Sati about her, regarding her father. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much for doing both of those. So for the last verse, Shiva continues on talking to his wife and says in the translation, of all the daughters of Daksha, you're the pet. And even though you are the pet, the most liked of the daughters, because you are my wife, you will not be honored or welcomed. You'll be sorry that you're even connected with me. And in the purport, it just says that he just Lord Shiva put forth that argument that even if she was to go alone, she would not be received well, and that the end result would probably be a catastrophe. So he indirectly requests her not to go to her father's house. So that talks to me about how relationships in the material world are very malleable, and that one action by Shiva can cause trickled negative effects. And the daughter, who was not the one committing that act, because she was related to her husband now in marriage, the father was most likely, per Shiva, not going to welcome her. So just because of that connection, being the wife of Shiva. So it just tells me how our relationships in this material world are not pure. They're haphazard. There's no direct. There's a line of. I mean, they are related in that they're married, but the daughter was not doing anything specifically to her father, and yet the father would take that position. And so, just relationships are not pure. They're malleable. They're temporal. They're not eternal, unlike the spiritual world. So I just wanted to go back to, since we do have time, I wanted to go back. And Linda, are you on yet? Did you want to speak at all? I'm thinking maybe she got busy. I just wanted to go back to Richie's, I think it was 17, where there was there was talk about how these different opulences, one's wealth, one's austerities, one's education, etc. How in someone, in most people, it's a cause of pride, one's wealth, etc. It's a cause of pride. And I want to just ask, if anybody wants to speak to how they deal with their own pride, how they foster the mood of humility, which is so very necessary in this path of bhakti. What is it that that we all are doing? I don't even have an answer. I don't know. I need to think about this too. What are we doing to foster this feeling of humility in the midst of others, even if we're, we may have these we may have these opulences, and then we may not, and we still might have this anartha of being proud. And I just thought maybe if anybody wants to speak to this, it might help others.
So yeah, if I can speak, right? So basically, like we just in every religious scripture, it is written how like we've got to approach God in our own situation. Like I mean, I've read the Bible a little bit, so in that it is very clearly said that you have created me um, in the womb of my mother, and and the hairs of my of a person's head are also counted. So and that like he in the beginning was like he created the world out of nothing, and created us out of dust, and he breathed air into us, or life force into us. And so that should remind us that we were actually just nothing, created in his own image of love, and that how we are above all the animals and the other lower beings, because he says that too, that you will have dominion over all creatures. So that's the Bible. But in every religion, like even if we consider atheists who just read, who don't read any scripture, there was Newton. He said that the more knowledge a person has, he knows that the amount of knowledge he has accumulated is like pebbles on the seashore. And while the vast ocean of knowledge is lying before one, and we have collected is a few pebbles. So, I always believe that if we approach any higher authority, we name it God or not, whatever we name it, but the whole purpose of going to temples and any holy place is to bow our head to that Supreme who is um, who has basically created us. It's all about humility. There is no place where people don't bow down, like be it the church or in the Muslim culture or in the Hindu culture, so any culture. So basically, we are going down in humility. Uh, so just got to approach that uh, that supreme being, and many times, yes, like all of you have said that during chanting or whatever practice one is following, one is revealed uh, their very minute and insignificant and sinful nature. And even in Bible, it's written that you've got to repent and you've got to pray and you've got to fast and help others.
Thank you. Governor Leela, did you want to add to that?
Well, when I think about it so far in my life, it's been a long life already. I would say I was never very attached to money. And I've known a lot of relatives who have a lot of money, and they're very extremely proud and arrogant. And they would always try to make the rest of the family members feel less than because they had a lot. But in reality, when they got sick as they aged, they realized that they were going to die just like everybody else, and they were going down the same way. It kind of put things into perspective for some of my relatives. And I would say for me, you know, they wanted me to feel proud to get a great education because I was the first woman in the family that ever had a degree. None of the women, most of the women back in the day, you know, they stayed home, they raised a family, they cooked, and I was one, you know, the first grandchild. So therefore, they wanted me to get a great education, and I have tried so many times not to be proud, but you know, when you get in that milieu at the school, you know, at school, you're around a lot of people with ego, tremendous ego, and about their, you know, what they know and their knowledge. And you know, after coming to Krishna consciousness, I see that most of them, and including myself before Krishna consciousness, didn't have a clue about knowledge because there was some being puffed up about having a great education. Okay, and I realize now that knowledge today, I retired. It's useless now. I might use it in Krishna's service, and you know, I am using it in Krishna's service now. Not all the time, but whenever I'm asked. And yes, it has its place, but it doesn't mean I'm anybody special. And so how do I work with that humility? You know, I've realized when I'm reprimanded by guru or someone who's in a more advanced position, and even if they're not, even if I don't like it, I need to hear what that person is saying. And if I can't change it immediately, pray about it. Pray that I can make these changes, because these changes sometimes don't come very quickly. But just knowing that, you know, you're not such a big deal here. It doesn't mean I'm a nothing, but you know, I'm just a speck in this whole cosmic manifestation, just a speck. And if I'm connected to Krishna, I feel I have some importance in that. I know he loves me and he's protecting me. These things I know, and he'll always be there for me when I'm properly devoted to him. So it's, I hope that made sense, to not think who the heck I am, because you know what? No, when it comes right down to it, we're all going down the same way. And I've really learned this through Krishna consciousness, and that everybody has value, on, you know, whatever, on some level, we all have value. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, both of you. So what I heard Ruchi Mataji speak of was just reflecting about how Krishna is great and we're just insignificant. Through the scriptures, she also mentioned about paying obeisances. Just that very act is also, it's just an expression of one's humility to pay obeisances, be it to the deity, be it in prayer or be it in, you know, in front of guru or a nice, great Vaishnava. And then Govardhan Leela, I liked how you were talking about how death alone brings us all to that that realization that you know, we're not the controller. It's gonna come to an end. This specific life, and understanding the perspective that, you know, it's only through working on a relationship with Krishna that we will, you know, we will come to this this humility, using everything in Krishna service. You had both of you had so many good points. I think that what I'm trying to do as well as I've been reading recently, and I know Govardhan Leela, you're doing the same thing, just reading about these great acharyas, the Goswamis. I just finished another book, Two Beyond Duality, about two Babajis. And, you know, a couple days prior, I had finished a book on Narottam Das. Just reading throughout, you know, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, just hearing about how these Vaishnavas respond to things in ways that are humble. I think that gives us, it's a great way to see it in action, you know, through the written word, but seeing it in action, humility, for those of us like myself who that it, you know, it's just a nice way to kind of walk towards being humility, and I'm being humble, excuse me. And so I just wanted to add that to all your very nice answers. Linda Mataji, are you back on the call? No, I don't even see you here on the participants. So does anybody else have anything to say? It's 6:07 now. Okay. I suppose it's time for us to wrap things up. If we don't have anything else to say, then I guess we can say Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai,
Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Please. See you tomorrow.
Okay, Hare Krishna.